to lead us off?
Sure do. Coach, just kind of give us your thoughts on South Carolina. What impresses you about them watching them on tape?
Well, I think what impresses me the most about them is, I mean, they're really complete. So they're competitive. They obviously play with a ton of confidence. They don't give much up on the defensive side. They are pretty disciplined pitching wise, and they take their hacks offensively. So I think that's everything, right? I mean, they're having a tremendous year. They seem to have a really cohesive group. So I'm still diving into my prep a little bit more. It's a short week for us. But they do a lot of things right. So I'm pretty impressed of the year they put together.
Speak to what Ashley's done there in her first year, having this success this quickly. I mean, you know what it's like to take over a program. I know they had good personnel. That helps, but still, to get them to buy in this quickly and have this success, how hard is that what she's accomplishing?
I think it's incredibly hard, and it's can't be understated the job that she and her staff have done. They've had personnel. They got a lot of transfers in, ones that were really familiar with them, and a good supplement to that. So I think that they put their team together really mindfully of the returners, what they brought with them, what they got out of the portal, and then just the others that they put in, and I think that when you watch Ashley and what she's done everywhere, what she does is have a group that plays with a ton of confidence and a group that is really bought into what they do. It's what she had at Charlotte, and that's definitely what she has now at South Carolina. She's done a great job. Wow.
Speak of your team too, to bounce back after the wild game of Saturday and the way it ended, and then fall behind early on Sunday to bounce back and take that series. Speak to that character of your team here, and that to bounce back like this. A lot of teams might have taken a couple of punches like that and say, all right, it's not meant to be, but not the case with your team.
Yeah, I think our team was incredibly resilient through the weekend. Showed a ton of character. It's probably the thing that impressed me the most about them, not just um, their ability to throw punches, but just their ability to control their emotions and stay really level through a very highly emotional weekend, or the potential of a very, very highly emotional weekend. And Saturday was just really frustrating. It was the game. My husband keeps saying, like, coaches, you sit and you're like, maybe I should have done this, or we could have done this, or in hindsight, when you have all the answers and you see how things played out. It's kind of like where fans sit sometimes, of like making all the decisions after things have played out. And my husband's just like, that's just the game sometimes. That's just softball or baseball sometimes, is like the frustrating feel of, I felt like we dominated the game. I think they maximized their opportunities. We gave them too much early on Saturday. We fought back, we punched back, we were fighting. And then we just never broke through. And every time you don't, you give a little bit more of that momentum back. But coming out of that game and the way it ended, you could put a ton more weight on it. And I was just really proud of the way our team turned the page. I feel like we made the most of our opportunities on Sunday. It's like on Saturday, we left 18 runners on. It's like unheard of, but that happens sometimes, as Joe Deifel says. It's the game sometimes, sometimes you just don't punch that hit through that you need. And, we maximized on that on Sunday, and, they just stayed the course. They fought their butts off. Florida's really, really good, and you go into Gainesville and you find a way to win the series, and shoot, you feel like you dominated the one game you lost. You just come out, and I think they just did a really great job, showed a ton of character, showed a ton of fight. Really impressed me throughout the weekend, and then also taking care of business at North Florida Monday night.
My last one, and then I'll give it to Dudley here. What's different about this team today than it was when it arrived in Oxford?
There's not enough time. No, there's so many things, Eric, so many things. This team right now is just playing with a ton of confidence, a ton of competitive commitment to each other. wanting to be great. Not that that team didn't, but that team got punched in the face for the first time and just didn't really know what to do or what to make of it. And just kind of sat in it a little bit until they kind of got that edge back. And this team right now is edgy. They're edgy. I think that they know we can beat anybody. We have to play our game. We have to control our side. But they just aren't going to count themselves out, and they're going to throw as many punches as it takes. But they also aren't necessarily caught up in the outcome as much as what it's going to look like and who we are going to be, and that commitment.
All right, I have a couple for me, and Courtney Mims had to step out, and she had a couple she wanted to ask. Mine is the Reagans. Obviously the middle of the lineup gets a lot of RBIs and a lot of acclaim. Just talk about how important they are up there at the top, just to get things going and to really frustrate pitchers early on.
Oh, well, they're critical at the top for two different reasons. Obviously, Reagan Johnson and her speed and having her on base, it's a game changer. But I will anytime someone asks me about Reagan Johnson offensively, I am going to talk about Reagan Johnson defensively also, even though you're not asking me about that. She's an absolute game changer on both sides. And I will always take the opportunity to um, just say how impressed on the daily. I will never take for granted the amount of ground Reagan Johnson covers in the outfield. And she impresses me on the daily. And this weekend was no different. The amount of ground, her, robbing the home run in game 3, she's just incredible. At the top of the lineup, her speed and how she's just controlling her at bats right now are so huge. And then Reagan Kramer, she's just so disciplined. She makes you earn everything that you get. You don't have RBIs if you don't have runners on, so it's an opportunity stat. And one, it's making sure that you are ready for that moment. You can drive them in, but if nobody gets on, you don't have the opportunity to have that stat. And so it's not just the top of the order, it's the middle getting on or the Breeze and the Ellas getting on, or Courtney and Wick and Tal and just making the most of that. And so I just really, really happy with the production that those top two are having, and then the ones right behind them hitting them in. It's pretty huge.
Also, tough first inning on Sunday, but how Kim Harrison came in and just gave you those innings and allowed Jaw to get back in it and take it.
Yeah, I mean, it was so huge. Not an ideal situation to go in. Not how we drew it up. Obviously, Reese has been big for us, and she will be. That's the game sometimes too. But Cam getting the ball in that moment, and even at the start, not exactly, obviously with giving up the home run there in that situation, she settled in and she fought her butt off for us and gave us a chance to get back in it and then stay the course. That's a really explosive offense. And that's the outing that Cam has been grinding for. And we know that she's capable of. So it was really great to see her shine in that moment.
Courtney Mims wants to know about Bree's OPS and the video game numbers she's putting up. We all expect it from her now, but just how fantastic is it to set for her and the way she's come along over the years as a player?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think when she's has the talent that she has and she's put up the years and career stats that she has, it's hard to think how is she going to get even better. And I think that's what she's done each year is gotten better. And um, I don't know that we expect the numbers that she's putting up. I want to be careful in what we say because the numbers she's putting up right now have never been done before. She's putting together a really, really special year. Our expectation is not for her to have the OPS of 1900 plus. Our expectation for Bree is to just put pressure on the other team, and she does that just by stepping in the box. And so um she's a special talent, she's a special competitor. It's been really fun to see her continue to grow and elevate her game. But Bree works for it, and I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't get to see kind of behind that curtain. But Bree is a grinder and she's in the cages every day. And she's such a student of the game and she's always wanting to fine tune her craft. And So what she is not without sweat and hard work. And I think at the end of the day, she knows she's put the work in and the prep in, and she's trusting that to have a ton of confidence. So I'm really proud of her. She's worked for everything that she's gotten, and she's just a really, really special individual.
She also wanted to get your thoughts on obviously Bree and Ella were got the SEC awards this weekend. Can you talk to not only the numbers that they had, but the clutch at bats they had?
Yeah, I mean it's a huge weekend to go in against number two and put up the production that they put up. And I mean, obviously, I think that I mean they deserved the awards. They deserved the national awards. They deserved the SEC awards. Not out of my bias, and not because I get to vote. I wish I did, but the production they put up against number two is incredible. And even going into Sunday, when we knew they'd probably go around Bree, and they did. I mean, one of the biggest signs of respect is walking someone to put a runner in scoring position for a hitter that's also very hot, but maybe not quite as dangerous as Bree, but that's for them to decide. So when you're walking Bree to put runners in scoring position, to have the ability to drive a run in, it's a huge sign of respect. They walked her when no one was on. It's a huge sign of respect, and she just continues to earn that. And then Ella was ready for that moment. I mean, she was in a zone. She was dialed all weekend, but it's another level of being dialed when you're getting walked to, and being able to control that emotion and stay level with that competitive um, approach that she has. And she handled it beautifully, and came up big for us time and time again. And so it's a it's a composure that's beyond her years, but it was exactly what we needed. And they both had tremendous weekends.
All right, appreciate it.
Mhm.
Ethan?
Hey Courtney, just we didn't see Courtney Day the last two games. I was just wondering if you had an update on how she's doing.
Yeah, she wasn't available Saturday or Sunday. And so we are still day to day. I think we're hopeful more than anything, but we're going to be really conservative with it, and just kind of take it day by day.
Sweet. It seemed like the Florida series was just a big. We knew that your freshman would be big this year, but it kind of felt like maybe all starting to really come together as far as just seeing the potential that all of them have. Just what have you thought about what it's taken for them to I guess now it seems like they're really settled into the SEC.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they've like settled in. I think that they just are competitors. That's what the whole class is. They're really, really talented, but they're just highly competitive. And I think they've handled and worked through just the different expectations or different emotional, I guess, consistency that you have to have at this level. And so I think that yeah, we're seeing them really come into their own right now. And I think that their best days are still ahead of them. But I'm just really proud of them, how they've worked, how they've stayed the course, how they've just trusted themselves, and just the level in which they're competing at.
Then obviously Saturday y'all are honoring Bree and looks like it's going to be really nice weather, big top 10 matchup. I think baseball's out of town. Just what would it mean to the program to get just a really for that game on Saturday, just a really big crowd there?
Well, I think it'd be huge for the program. I do believe it's sold out, Hunter, I think, that game.
Yeah, there's
Um,
only like 300 tickets left.
So
No,
hurry up, everybody.
okay.
What are you waiting
Yeah.
for? But it's going to be obviously just a really good matchup. But I think as we've seen these fans show up for this team, I think our fans love watching this team compete. It's going to be a great matchup. And then obviously getting to honor Bree and what she's done, not only for our program, but for the game, and showing up for her would be huge.
Last thing I got is it was obviously an emotional weekend to go in and beat Florida, but just what did you think of the ability to Monday come out and I mean that's a North Florida team that is undefeated in their conference. The way that y'all came in and just kind of handled business in wake of that emotional series win.
Well, I think it's big time. I think I'm not sure you could find a coach that would say that they didn't stress even more about that game. Or, had maybe a sleepless night or two worrying about us just kind of taking care of business, especially coming off a highly emotional weekend or a taxing weekend. It was also a lot hotter than we're used to. It was very humid. There's just so many things. And I just thought they did exactly what you said and what I've said. They handled business. They showed up very businesslike. I think we got some breaks early that really helped. And I think that they just did what we needed to do and then got to go home. So we were really, really happy to go home 3-1. It was a great weekend.
Thanks. That's all I have.
Mhm.
One more question here if anybody wants it, then we're gonna transition over to the TV call. So, anybody?
So I'll just ask a question here about the SEC this week. An incredible slate, 5 top 25 series taking place, 3 of them in the top 10, which you're part of that. What does it speak about the SEC and obviously the depth of the league? It's always been strong, but this is kind of historic stuff. What does it mean for you to be having been a part of this now for a while?
Gosh, well, I think that, yeah, when you add the two teams and just the level that every team is competing at, it's just never been stronger. It definitely feels that way. Competing is like there's never a breath. It's always we're so strong from top to bottom. And this year it feels like that on steroids. It just feels like it's just nonstop, really high level softball, really great matchups. Everyone just keeps getting stronger. And so it continues to impress me and tire me out. No, I'm just kidding. It's a mindset. Don't let my team hear me say that. But I just think it's exciting. I think it's exciting. I don't think we've ever been stronger. I know we've never been stronger. And so we're just seeing these crazy good matchups, and anything can happen on any weekend. And so it's exciting for softball. It's exciting for SEC softball. And that's why we do it. That's why we signed up for it. Exactly what we wanted.
And then my last question, I spoke to Madison Shipman on the podcast. She told me this is in person, seeing your team live, feels it's your best offense you've seen that you've had. I'm not going to ask you about that. What I am going to ask you about her talking about the development of your pitchers and their growth from the beginning of the year to the present and how you use them with in their roles. Just talk about that and that kind of the evolution of how you've used your pitching staff.
Yeah, I think we're still figuring that out. I think we're getting closer every weekend. I think that when we got into this year, we knew that they were a little green. They were young. They're going to need to learn some big lessons. And I think that they've done that. And so I still think that we're figuring that out a little bit. I know that I've been on some other in the last couple weeks, just not really feeling like the start of our schedule played out to where we could really get them in different roles. And so I think we're still kind of figuring that out each weekend and putting them in different roles and pairing them a little differently. And so I think we're closer than ever at figuring that out, hopefully. But I think that I just have been really impressed with them continuing to fight, continuing to grow, continuing to learn. And all we ever ask them to do is give us a chance to win. And I know that looks a little different every day. But this offense and our defense give us a ton of freedom to make some mistakes and not feel like we have to be perfect in everything that we do. And that's really, really huge for such a young staff. And so they continue to grow. They're maturing each weekend. And so I just am really glad to get down the stretch with this crew. And I agree with Madison. I agree. My dad said it. Obviously, my dad's a retired baseball coach. He watched us in Mary Nutter, and he said that. And even on the bad days, he's like, I'm putting my hat on that. But this crew's fun. And I think how we are in each area allows us to have freedom in each area. And there's a lot to be said for that.
All right, thank you guys. We're going to go ahead and transition into